So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Ask YP Now show, which is a live show focusing on positive living, work life balance, living with passion, success in your life and business, and most importantly, working together to make the world a better place. And today, we've got all the way from the US, we've got Luz Gonzalez. So, Luz, do you want to say hi to everybody and just say, a few
Hi.
things about yourself? Hi.
I just want to say hola, hi,
Hola.
mabuhay, ¿cómo están
Wow.
todos?
So you're multilinguistic.
Eh,
So Luz, tell us a bit more about yourself. Yeah.
Oh, I'd love to. Thank you. First, YP, I want to say thank you for having me here to get to know your audience and for my audience to get to know you and your platform. And
Thank
I'm
you.
all about making the world a smaller place where we could all connect and help each other. My name is Luz Gonzalez. And for those of you who don't know, Luz is a Spanish word and it means light. Now,
Wow.
for many years, I didn't like my name, believe it or not,
Ah,
because the place that I lived didn't understand Spanish. They didn't know how to
okay.
pronounce it. So I'd be called Luz, Louis, Lou. And it made me wanna, yeah, it made me wanna like just put my head down. And then I moved to the Philippines. And
Uh-huh.
lo and behold, the Philippines has a major island called Luzon. So
Okay.
when I would say my name is Luz, everyone's like, like Luzon, like the Philippines. It was
Wow.
it was so exciting to get to be welcomed. Just even your name can say a lot about bringing people in.
So that because I do business in the Philippines, so this image is gonna be permanently branded in my head. So whenever I go to the Philippines, I'm gonna think Luzon. Okay,
Yes.
Luzon is losers island.
Yeah, it was awesome. It
Oh,
was very pivotal, a very pivotal growth for me. It was in my 20s. And it was just
okay.
amazing to learn a different culture, meet different people, see different ways of living from what I was used to. And I think it was just a big blessing for me.
How long were you actually in the Philippines?
I was in the Philippines for off and on 10 years.
Okay. So Luz, I know you're multi-talented, okay, and multi-talented is just an understatement, okay. I know you're multi-talented. You've got many areas of strength. So I just want to start with one of your strengths, okay, which is basically on emotional intelligence. Getting to know oneself, and then once you're more, I guess I use the word, stable, more aware, then you're able to, communicate and help other people more, right? So can you tell me how you got involved into this, whole big topic of emotional intelligence, right?
To be honest with you, it was all about relationships and love,
Okay.
or I should be more specific, heartbreak.
Mm-hmm.
For me, relationships are very heartfelt.
Okay.
And I was just dealing with a breakup, and I didn't know I was so devastated
Mm-hmm.
until I met or I researched. I've been starting to look a lot. I've always been researching, but this was in particular. Why was I so heartbreaking? What was the pattern that I kept creating in causing me this situation to feel like this? And then I
Mm-hmm.
met Gary Zukav. Gary Zukav
Okay.
is the author of The Seat of the Soul and one of Oprah Winfrey's most frequent guests on her show, the Oprah
Mm.
Winfrey Show. And he said this. He said, if you love and love and love and hurt and hurt and hurt, it is not great love you feel, but great fear, because love does not hurt.
Wow, that's such a
Ooh.
powerful statement. Whoo!
That blew me away because I was like, wait a minute, I'm Latina. We're passionate. We're loving. I will die for you. And that's how much I love you. And that's how it is in my culture and also in the Filipino culture. But it
Mm.
was so pivotal because as I really stopped to think about it, I was like, it's true. When there's real love, there's no hurt. So what was it that I was chasing? And I realized it was external power. And that's what got me started learning about emotional intelligence, emotional awareness, and how to raise my EQ overall.
Okay. Wow, I can remember the word EQ. Um, there I was, this is a story about what, 30 years ago? Is it 30? Oh, am I that young? Okay, just kidding. Okay, so it's about 30 so years ago, when I was in a corporate world in a property development company, and I've been known as being, somebody that's driven for results. And I remember one of my staff gave me a book for a present. It's Dan Goleman's EQ book.
Yes.
So I think she was trying to give me a message. I
You think so?
think I know for a fact. Yeah, yeah. We laugh about it, and then yeah, we became good friends. Yeah.
What did you learn about the book?
Well, I realized that at the end of the day, human beings are relational beings. Yeah, and it's the human connection that actually get results, and it's not just giving checklists, targets, deadlines, and driving that. If only everybody in the corporate world can appreciate that. Yeah.
Yes, and that's my journey now. So
Mm,
in 2018, so in 2016, I started consulting with women entrepreneurs mainly, and I
mm,
realized that they had blockages in their lives. They had situations that they were going through, and they didn't know how to move past these challenges. And then, as I was consulting with women, I went back to college. And while I was in business school, I saw the gap. And the gap was that businesses are not providing this emotional intelligence within their organizations,
mm,
and now it's all coming to fruition because the great resignation proved just that. When the
mhm,
company culture is failing, people don't want to spend their time there because the majority of your time is spent at work and with your
mhm,
coworkers. And if you're not giving me the tools on how to communicate with this group of people, then I
mhm,
don't really want to be here. I have to, the mindset is I have to be with my family because they're my family. I don't have
mhm,
the tools there either, but they
mhm,
have to take me in because, we're family. But here, I don't have to be here. I don't have to deal with this. So they're out.
mm. And what you say, is so true, especially, if you talk about the Filipino culture where people are so relational, isn't it? And I was just, talking to a friend of mine. She's a registered psychologist, somebody I'm working with on what do you call that, mental health platform. And she was sharing that, one of the biggest stresses, for a person at work is the conflict between family obligations versus work obligation. A very simple example is, in the case of, let's say, a parent, you're at work because you need to be at work to deliver your duties and responsibilities, yet there's somebody at home that's sick. So you're torn between your commitment or your obligation for the family, at the same time, for your work. And that's where the stress, at work comes, especially if it's a long-term thing. Yeah.
No, I totally agree with you. I actually went through a situation where my youngest daughter was literally quite sick, life
Oh.
and death sick.
Uh-huh.
And at the moment, I want to say blessed because I didn't have a job.
Mm-hmm.
Her dad and I, we had worked together on how to best support
Mm-hmm.
her. And he had some funds. So through that, we were able to deal with her medical issues. So money wasn't the main issue in my mind. It was able to put my energy toward her healing. But
Mm-hmm.
fast forward, I don't have that benefit anymore. So now I have put so much effort and emphasis in work that
Mm-hmm.
now my family life is
Okay.
suffering. And so I think that's pivotal for many parents, that
Mm,
balance, that I should say lack of balance.
mm, mm. And that's where, working from home and the ideas behind the Great Resignation comes in, isn't it? Because from the pandemic, people are discover that they can find a better balance, I guess, between work life and family life. Yeah.
Well, I heard this. Being single is hard and being married is hard. Choose your
Mm.
hard. Having a job is hard, being an entrepreneur is hard. Choose
Mm,
your hard.
mm.
So, working from home is great and working from home is hard. Choose, like
Yeah.
there's pluses and minuses, I think, to everything.
Mm,
And the gift is how do you change your mindset to look at something that you could have gratitude for.
mm. So Luz, can you share, from your personal experience, evidently, some of the topics that we're talking about, you are actually experiencing it or have experienced it. So how can you, bring in this, I use two words, emotional intelligence, and I guess another keyword nowadays is emotional resilience, you know, or mental resilience. So how do you bring, the emotional intelligence or mental resilience into the corporate world, right? How do you do that? And give us some examples. Yeah.
I mean, every like I mentioned, anything that you want really badly is hard. And the question is, how committed are you to it? And that's
Mm-hmm.
where the question of resiliency comes in. How are you able to laser focus on that dream, that vision, that purpose that you want to build, cultivate, expand on, versus the detours, the sidelines, the messages that are interrupting this focus? And it's all about that commitment, number one, and number two, intention. What is your intention to drive so heart centeredly into this obligation, this situation, this thing that you want to build? Why? Is it for prestige? Is it so people can see you? Is it because you truly want to give back? Is it because there's something in you that's driving you to really share? So
Mm.
intention and commitment, I think, are very strong words. And where is that intersection for you?
Okay. And you use a word just now that's interesting. You say heart centrally. What does heart? How does being heart centered mean, especially in the business world where people think that you've got to be heartless?
Yes, actually. So again, I the message, there's a quote that's re-quoted by Gary Zukav, and he says, "The longest journey you'll ever take is from your head to your heart."
Wow.
So as humans, we're learning to evolve. And if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the bottom, the foundation of who we are
Mm-hmm.
as individuals, we need to make sure we have food, shelter, clothing to survive. So everything is about survival. And then
Mm-hmm.
once you have that, you're able to start moving up the triangle. And at the
Mm-hmm.
very top, you have self-awareness. And
Mm-hmm.
so now that we're evolving, we're able to move beyond the mind, that strategy, that ambush. Oh, is there someone trying to kill me? To, okay, let me move beyond me into society, into compassion, into really connecting that you're not my brother, you are me. You're another aspect of me. So that's how to move from the mind into heart, and it's called heart centric or human centric.
Okay. Right.
Actually, and this is where organizations, the ones that are innovators, are moving towards. These are the ones that are attracting the top talent because
Okay.
they are realizing that when you care about people, right,
Mm-hmm.
then people will be able to let down their guard, build that loyalty. They'll work hard for you. They'll figure it out just to, be part of something that is impactful.
I think the key thing, from me, having run, a couple of businesses, is that everybody wants to feel safe, isn't it? When you got a team member, I rather call them team member rather than employees. Every time you got a team member, the team member has got to think that he or she is going to be with you long term. Yeah. So you want to provide a safe and happy environment where they can, thrive, reach their potential. And one thing you said earlier on, which is key, being given the tools to succeed, right?
Yes,
Because when you're in an employment situation, you need, multiple things. And once you're given the right environment, right tools, when people thrive, then they feel, they're part of your organization rather than just being a number, an employee number. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And for people who work in organizations, do you know the janitor's name? Do you know
Mm-hmm.
the security guard's name? Have you made an effort to say hello or get to know them a little bit more? Because they don't have a title, or a title that you perceive could have power. Does that
Mm-hmm.
not mean that they're still human and they still have a story? They still want to laugh. And if I promise you, if you give them a little bit of attention, courtesy, kindness,
Mm,
respect, they will move
mhm.
mountains for you when they see you.
Yeah, yeah. And I've read, sorry, I've heard stories about, how, really, really successful people like Richard Branson, the way he treats people is, amazing, on his Necker Island, you could see a laborer and he can go up to the laborer, chat with him like an old friend and know their name, who's in their family and so on, That's the type of relationship he has. So
Yeah,
it's not it's actually the opposite. The more successful people are, the more they care about people in their team, right?
exactly. I mean, they They are heart centric. They care about people. They have a strong intuition. And I think what sets them aside from the majority of us is not only do they have vision, but they have the action to move beyond that vision,
Mm,
to manifest what they
mm,
see. And like I talked about earlier, that laser focus. We all have ideas that have popped into our heads, and we have them there for a reason, because they're in our destiny, they're in our path to cultivate, to
mhm,
create.
mhm,
But do we have that laser focus that they have to not allow distractions to come in and move us from that goal?
mhm. Right, right. So, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who just joined in, the RSYP live show or listening to this recording, welcome, welcome, welcome to you. So today's topic is about, emotional intelligence and having the resilience to be able to, overcome challenging environments, situations, relationships. And we have it here, Luz, Luz is from the US and she has got multi-talents and multicultural experience. And then Luz, focuses on being heart-centered, focuses on, theories of emotional quotient, EQ, emotional intelligence, especially in the corporate world. So, Luz, I know this is going to be a big ask, but could you just sum up, the last, 15 minutes of what we've been talking about for those people who just pop in. Okay. How we're going to use, all this, emotional intelligence, practices in the corporate world. How can people best use it to make themselves happy and to get results in their business? Okay.
Okay, so overall, emotional intelligence has four pillars. They are self awareness, become aware of myself. From when you move into self awareness, you then go into self regulation. Oh, I just realized that normally that makes me upset and I would react this way. But now that I'm more aware, because before self awareness is unconscious, you're unaware, you're on autopilot. So then it's self
Mhm,
awareness. From there, it becomes self regulation. And then from self regulation to, okay, let me pause. I now have the ability to look around me. So it's social awareness. I can now see, oh, this person is reacting this way, or they're triggered by that, etc. Or this
mhm,
person is not, is not contributing. They're holding back some information. And I think pivotal, which is key, is we sometimes take the five senses, what we see, what we hear, what we smell, what we taste, what we touch, to be fact. When our knowing says something is up. Have you ever been in
mhm,
a room, YP, and you're like, what just happened? And everyone's
mhm,
like, nothing, everything is
mhm.
fine. And you're like, something feels off. But because
Yeah.
they said everything is fine, and because you don't see anything, you believe it. But later on, it comes out there was something. So
Mhm,
that's very pivotal to the emotional awareness aspect of this whole umbrella.
mhm,
So going back again, we have self awareness. I'm aware now. I get upset when X happens. Self regulation. Instead of reacting this way, let me react a different way. Then social awareness. Oh, let me see how the people around me are. And then we move to relationship management. Oh, okay, so now let me start seeing how I could interact with other people. And then that's when empathy comes in. That's when caring comes in. That's
mhm,
when the true meaning of compassion starts showing itself. And compassion, I want to share this because a lot of people can have compassion for someone as long as they don't feel triggered or
mhm,
attacked. But the moment they feel like someone is being aggressive toward them, there's no compassion anymore. So the compassion is conditional. So how do
okay.
we move compassion into all aspects of human to human, soul to soul, heart to heart connections?
Mm. Right. And the context. Thanks, Luz, for putting this all into a context, into a summary, and giving pillars for people to sort of like remember the key elements, right? So as you are sharing this, it makes me sort of think like nowadays, um, the work environment has changed, and if you want people to be working for us, especially in the office environment rather than work from home environment, people have got to, what's the word, you become just a choice as an employer. Your company becomes just a choice, and people are choosing places where they feel happy, safe, valued, respected. And what you just shared are the elements where you make a work environment more human. And I use the word too, human and humane, because you're looking after people's, not only their physical well-being and also their mental well-being, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right. I would like to share also that it's very important for us to open up our hearts connecting to people, because we don't know the whole story. And when we learn the whole story, we start connecting on a different level. My biggest contribution is I want people to be their authentic self.
Okay. Can you give a bit of an example what you mean by being their authentic self? Because that's a big concept, yeah.
Everyone's now talking about transparency and authenticity, but
Mm-hmm,
nobody's talking about how to do it. And
mm-hmm,
like babies, right? There's baby steps. We're learning how to communicate, because how many millennia, people were taught to be quiet if you want to survive. If you expose yourself, you are at risk of death. And I have this cartoon that I play. And imagine this. Imagine two turtles, right? And they're in their
okay.
shell. And one of them sticks its head out to the neighbor turtle and says, "Someone has to say something about this." And the other turtle's like, "Yeah, I agree. Someone has to say something." But they're under their protective shell. Who's willing to stick their neck out to speak? And then they
Mm.
both look, and there's a giraffe right next to them, because the giraffe has a long neck. He's like, "Why is everyone looking at me?" And this cartoon is multi-level, because it
Mm,
talks about diversity. When you start bringing in different people, they all have different skill sets. It also talks about how some people are afraid to share, afraid to come out of their shell, afraid to expose their true thoughts or selves.
mhm,
And I think that's what's happening now with the generation Z and millennials. They're like the warriors that are coming out, with people like me, Gen X. We're
okay.
pioneers. And of course, the people ahead of us, baby boomers, we're
It's
pioneers.
me.
Yeah, because we're learning to speak up, right?
Mm,
It's still not
mm,
that popular. And I think
mm,
COVID gave us that rare ability where now a lot of us can be on camera. A lot of us now have a voice that we didn't have
mhm,
before.
mm,
TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, they're all giving us that opportunity to have a platform. So now we're like evolution, it's slow, and we're learning now to have a voice, but we also have to have self-responsibility with that voice, because
mm,
there is karma. There is consequences from what comes out of my mouth. Am
mm,
I aware? Am I conscious of what's coming out of my mouth, of the actions that I'm willing to take, and the actions I'm currently doing? Am I moving thought to word to action? And what's the alignment in my intention?
mm.
Does that
Great.
answer the question?
Yep, yep. Thank you so much. So, Luz, I'm just gonna, shift focus a bit. So we've been speaking a fair bit about, EQ, emotional intelligence in the corporate sense. So I just want to bring it down to a more personal level. Okay. So because some of the listeners who are listening in, there could be some people who are getting into or getting out of relationship that's challenging. It could be from a home situation or work situation, right? And every time there is a challenge to a relationship challenge, whether it's professional work or home, there's always hurt and pain. So what do you think, from an individual basis, what's the best way to deal with it? Wow, I know it's a big question.
It's a big question. And I will say an answer that might not be super popular, and it's self accountability.
Mm,
Because am I willing to look at myself? Am I
okay.
willing to see my contribution in this situation? Let's go back to the beginning of our conversation. I told you it was heartbreak that brought
Mm,
me on this journey of learning more about emotional awareness. And
mhm,
what I had to do at that moment, I was super happy blaming the other party. Like, woe is me. I can't believe this person did X, Y, and Z. And then I had to take accountability and say, okay, what was I doing in this situation? I saw red flags. My intuition told me a lot of information, like be careful. Remember, I told you about the five senses?
Mm-hmm.
My
It's a
senses were,
sixth sense.
yes, my sixth sense was telling me he's lying, like that. It just said he's lying, but I chose to believe the words that were coming out of his mouth. So
Mm,
that leads me to ask you, whoever's dealing with a situation, a conflict in relationships, willing are you to take a step back, to have self-reflection, and to communicate? Because like I said, we're new at this, and trust me, I've raised my voice more than once. I've gotten out of my center, out of my heart, and into my head and into my ego, and I'm like ready to fight. But I have to go back into accountability. Take a breath. I tell myself, take a breath. What do I want to cultivate? And I want to cultivate
mm,
love. I want to cultivate balance, and I want to cultivate connections. So in order to do that, I have to have courage to look at myself, courage to ask the other person, what is it that you're seeing in me that I don't see in myself? And then a voice. I mute myself. There's others who talk over people, and there's people who just stay quiet. I'm on the second part. So I've had to learn to speak up. But if you're someone who speaks a lot, learn to be quiet and
yeah,
listen.
true. Mm,
So it's about accountability, self accountability, and then communication. Are you willing to say what you see and come together without taking score?
okay. Wow. So, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who've been listening, this is gold. Okay. And if you just happen to miss this bit, make sure that you rewatch the whole the whole live show. This is live right now, and once the show is over, whatever platform you are listening into, whether it's Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook, there will always be a recording. Come back and listen, because this is such powerful sharing by Luz. Thank you so much about handling relationships, because all of us, we are 100% into relationships, isn't it? Unless you're I would say a hermit in a cave,
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Even then, who are you hiding from?
Mhm.
Yourself.
Yeah. So actually, right, you're right. If you're a hermit in a cave, you got at least one relationship with yourself, isn't it? Or
Yes.
maybe two, if you think about a more spiritual or higher being. You got two relationships that you are
But even
accountable
then,
for.
think about it. Even then, it's easy to be spiritual because you don't have anyone triggering you. You don't have anyone
Mm,
pushing, showing you
yeah.
yourself. So
Mm,
it's easy to be zen when there's silence all around me. How do I be
okay.
zen when there's movement and noise and fire
True.
alarms?
Mm, yeah. How to find your center amidst all the chaos, right?
Yes, exactly. And this is the evolution of humanity. The chaos before was society, right? Surviving. And now the chaos is within. And this is
Mm,
why, in my opinion, there's so much anxiety coming on, because we're learning self awareness. We're
mm.
just becoming pioneers and learning about how to navigate through this space.
Yeah. So, Luz, I'm just putting your Facebook page up there. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're enjoying this episode, and I'm enjoying it really, really, so much, this is how you can get in touch with Luz. She's got this is her personal Facebook page. Become a friend, get in touch with her, and yeah, get her to share with you more. Or, if you want to bring the idea about a heart-centered organization, you want to bring more awareness about emotional intelligence, creating a safe, happy work environment. Luz is the person that you should be speaking to, right? So, Luz, before we end up, so can you give some final advice to, I would say, two groups of people, because this conversation has always been about two things, right? One, for the first group of people who wants to have a more heart-centered, human-centered organization or corporate organization, what will be your final words to them? And the other part that you're talking about is being your authentic self. So how do you bring out your authentic self, or stay true to yourself amidst all the chaos in the relationships you're having. Okay, so can you speak to these two groups? Yeah, what are your
Yes,
final thoughts?
yes, easy. Yeah. Oh, and I can also say you could find me on connect_with_luz on Instagram. And there I post more videos. I talk more about emotional intelligence and the different aspects of how to develop your emotional awareness and what all of this means. So you can find me there as well. So how do you move into your heart space? The first question, was that the first question?
The first question is how to bring make your company, your organization a bit more heart centered or human centered. Yeah.
Yeah. I would suggest if you want to bring your company into more heart centered, is create trainings, moments together where it's just fun, where you don't have any deliverables, no timeline, but you do set up a time where you guys can get to know each other. And it's fun. There's some games that get to know how people think or what their skill set is. Do different things that bring in creativity, bring in competition, bring in a sense of comedy. And then you'll see people outside of that office space and in there a little bit more without their armor, right?
Mm,
And then they'll be more willing to converse. If you're opening spaces for people to communicate and be authentic, I trust me, you'll start seeing more and more of this happening. And that's how you create a bond with the team. It's not about forcing employees back to the office, but it's about connecting in a way beyond a deliverable of work, but more toward connecting as humans.
good. Thank you so much. And then, um, what about the authentic self part? Yeah.
Yes. We all have something that lights us up. There's a connection in everything you've done. And you'll see it in your algorithms on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, whatever you look at, there's something that pops up and it's unique to you. So whether it be sewing or cooking or singing, in my case, I have a few different differences. It's about educating people. It's about politics. It's about planting and children. And then what happens is all of this tells a story and this ignites you from within. The problem is sometimes your job isn't in alignment with what is igniting you from within. And ask yourself, why am I in a job that isn't really lighting me up?
Mm-hmm.
Most likely, it's because of a thought based from fear of security. I need
Okay.
this job to survive. What would
Mm-hmm.
happen if we shifted the mindset and said, I am being given everything I need to survive, as well as develop that inner light within me and share it with others? And little by little, if you start communicating about what lights you up, the things that
Mm,
excite you to people, you're going to find someone in your group is going to say, "Oh, I need you to speak to this people. I need you to show that to this group. I need you to bring your brilliance to my organization." And take little baby steps and you'll start seeing what is igniting you from within, and see if you want to start shifting even part-time or a hobby. Make it where people know what you're about and they see you differently.
thanks, Luz. And it's just like spot on because I just put out on a banner a Facebook group. This is the Work Less Earn More group. So I'm inviting all of you listeners to come in and join this group. It's free. And this is where we're gonna share ideas, tips. Like what Luz has been sharing. To make your life happier, healthier, and wealthier. And I think this is something that everybody wants, isn't it? You want to be part of a supportive and positive community where all of us are going to thrive. I'm not going to use the word survive, but we can all thrive together because all of us have got skills, knowledge, resources like Luz. Uh, she's got so much wealth of experience in helping people, on a personal level, on a corporate level. And we just need to find platforms where we can get to share all this experience with each other and elevate each other up. Fantastic. Okay. So
And
our listeners,
I
yep,
just
sorry.
wanted to share real quick that just
Yeah.
because it lights you up doesn't mean it's easy. And
Okay.
just to quickly share, my dream as a child was to stand in front of a group. But
Mm-hmm.
as long as the room was empty, I was able to stand in front of the group, the empty chairs.
Okay.
This moment people started sitting, I went back to my seat and got quiet. So
Ah,
I knew from a child that this lit me up, but I didn't know what to do about it. So
mhm.
reach out in this group that YP is putting in, and then let's all help each other bring out that light.
Yeah, thanks. Brilliant, Luz. Okay, so as we come to the end of the show, and thank you so much for joining us. So the Ask YP Live show is on every. I'm going to use my time zone. Okay, so my time zone is the Singapore, the Asia Pacific time zone, the Singapore, Manila, Hong Kong, Beijing, Perth time zone. So it's going to be on every Thursday night at 7 p.m. and the show usually lasts between 30 to 45 minutes, right? So come in and join us weekly for all this amazing sharing about how to make your life better, okay, and how to make the world better too. And so I actually have got this book, and just about 3 weeks ago, it hit the Amazon bestseller. Okay, so this is the Amazon bestseller book, How to Work Less and More. But the good news is you don't have to go to Amazon to buy a book. You can get a free copy of this book using this link. Okay, right? So you can either take a picture of this link, or you can see the QR code up there. Take a picture of the QR code, and it also give you the link to this book, right? So with this, ladies and gentlemen, shall we together, Luz, wish everybody, a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, because we've got listeners from all over the world listening to it. Okay. So everybody, really have a great day, and I'll see you next week.
Yes, thank you so much, YP, and everybody. Bye. Have a great rest of your